In early 2021, I struck up a conversation with a woman sitting next to me at the airport. She explained how grateful she was to be flying again, but that she had lost 4 unvaccinated family members in the COVID-19 pandemic's first and second waves. I asked her if she had chosen to vaccinate herself, and she replied, no. The WHO tells us 2 things. 1, that since June 2021, more than 500,000 lives of those aged over 60 alone were saved by the COVID-19 vaccine. And although we know this, we've equally come to realize that we have a growing problem with vaccine hesitancy, which even before the pandemic was the cause of about 1.5 million avoidable deaths each year. Vaccine hesitancy is defined as the reluctance or refusal to vaccinate despite the availability of vaccines. It's judged by the WHO as one of the 10 most prevalent threats to global health worldwide. And in times of COVID-19, vaccine hesitancy is also the primary reason why we're seeing the largest drop in childhood vaccinations of the 21st century. At the same time, research shows us that social media has increasingly become a major source of health information and exchange. And, thanks to COVID-19, that the conversation on Twitter surrounding vaccines has exploded in the past 2 years. I'm interested in learning more about how the experiences we make on social media can influence our potentially life-saving decision to get vaccinated. For this, I'm looking at the who, the why, and the what happened next of the vaccine discourse on Twitter. And to answer that first question, we need to understand that what's happening online is far more complex than this stock photo might have you think. On Twitter, we see human users, organizations, and computers, or bots. Within the vaccine discourse, these actors can all post pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine content. We do, however, often tend to forget the users in the middle, the vaccine hesitant. Why people talk about vaccines on Twitter is not a secret. It can be to share information and opinions within their networks, to publish misinformation, to make money, or to stigmatize. And it's this type of stigma that I'm particularly interested in. Now, I'd like to introduce you to Herman Cain, a former businessman and US-American Republican presidential candidate. He died of COVID-19 after describing the virus as not as deadly as it was made out to be by mainstream media on Twitter. The internet responded to this irony in creating the Herman Cain Awards, a title that was given to social media users who first mocked the virus online and then died from it. This is a perfect example of stigma. And judging by the popularity of these awards, stigma can be a gruesomely entertaining and alienating thing online. But we also know that stigma can bring about positive behaviors, or avoidance responses, that people make to avoid being stigmatized against. Does stigma support vaccine uptake, or do users run the risk of alienation and extremization? In my research, I'd like to find out in which way online stigma has influenced vaccine-hesitant users in their decision to vaccinate against COVID-19. And this is the bane of my research, the what happens next. Of the 400 million vaccine-related tweets gathered in English, German, Italian, and Portuguese within my dataset, I've manually coded a little over 10,000 for vaccination stance and the presence and type of stigma. About 25% of these tweets are either vaccine hesitant or anti-vax. In these first findings, we see a rise in message volume, anti-vax sentiments, and vaccine hesitancy. Vaccine-related stigma becomes more prevalent over the course of the pandemic and is used to create in- and outsiders within the discourse on Twitter. If my research findings can help public health organizations reach and convince only 1% of these users, that's potentially 100 lives positively impacted and potentially saved. And that's the reason why my research matters.